Memory shapes our identities, guides our actions, and enriches our experiences. Without memory, we would be unable to learn from the past, navigate the present, or plan for the future. Imagine a life without the ability to recognize loved ones or recall important events. It would be a life devoid of continuity and meaning. From remembering childhood memories to learning new skills, memory plays a central role in shaping who we are. It allows us to connect with others, build relationships, and develop a sense of self. By understanding how memory works, we can improve our ability to learn, remember, and utilize information effectively. The Atkinson-Shiffrin model, also known as the multi-store model, proposes that memory consists of three interconnected systems: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Sensory memory acts as the entry point for all incoming sensory information. It briefly holds raw sensory data, such as sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and touch, for a very short period. Short-term memory, also known as working memory, receives information from sensory memory and holds it temporarily for conscious processing. It is limited in capacity and duration, but it allows us to manipulate information, solve problems, and make decisions. Long-term memory is the vast and relatively permanent storage system for information that has been processed and encoded from short-term memory. It holds an immense amount of information for extended periods, potentially a lifetime. This information includes our knowledge about the world, personal experiences, learned skills, and memories of past events. The interaction between these three memory systems forms the basis of our ability to encode, store, and retrieve information. First, sensory input enters sensory memory, where it is briefly registered. Then, attention selects relevant information from sensory memory, transferring it to short-term memory for further processing. Finally, through rehearsal and encoding processes, information from short-term memory can be transferred to long-term memory for permanent storage. Encoding is the crucial first step in the memory process. It involves transforming sensory information into a form that can be stored in our memory systems. Without effective encoding, information cannot be retained or retrieved later. Think of encoding as the process of creating a digital file on your computer. If the file is not saved properly, it cannot be accessed later. Shallow encoding focuses on superficial characteristics of information, such as the physical appearance of words or the sound of a voice. Deeper encoding involves processing information semantically, focusing on its meaning and associating it with existing knowledge. Elaborative rehearsal, which involves actively connecting new information to existing knowledge and experiences, significantly enhances encoding and improves memory retention. The more meaningfully we encode information, the more likely we are to remember it later. When we relate new information to our personal experiences, create stories around it, or find ways to make it personally relevant, we enhance its encoding and increase the chances of successful retrieval. By using effective encoding strategies, we can improve our ability to learn and remember new information. Sensory memory is the initial stage of memory, responsible for briefly holding sensory information from the environment. It acts as a buffer, allowing us to perceive the world as a continuous and coherent experience. Sensory memory has a large capacity, taking in vast amounts of information from our senses simultaneously. There are different types of sensory memory, each specialized for a particular sense. Iconic memory refers to visual sensory memory, holding a brief image of what we have seen for a fraction of a second. For example, when you quickly glance at a complex image and then look away, you can still briefly picture the image in your mind's eye. Echoic memory, on the other hand, is responsible for auditory sensory information, retaining sounds we have heard for a short duration. Think about a time when someone asked you a question while you were distracted. You might have initially said, "What?" but then quickly realized you did hear the question. That's echoic memory at work. However, sensory memory has a very limited duration. Information in sensory memory decays rapidly unless it is attended to and transferred to short-term memory. This fleeting nature of sensory memory highlights the importance of attention in selecting relevant information for further processing. Short-term memory, also known as working memory, is the temporary storage system that holds information we are consciously aware of and actively processing. It's the scratchpad of our minds, allowing us to perform mental operations, solve problems, and make decisions. Unlike sensory memory, which holds raw sensory data, short-term memory processes information in a more meaningful and abstract form. Short-term memory has a limited capacity, typically holding only a small amount of information at a time. The magical number 7, plus or minus 2, is often cited as the average capacity of short-term memory, meaning most people can hold around 5 to 9 items in mind simultaneously. These items can be individual units of information, like digits in a phone number, or they can be meaningful chunks of information. Chunking is a strategy that can expand the capacity of short-term memory by grouping individual items into larger, meaningful units. For example, remembering a string of letters like FBI, CIA, IBM is easier than remembering those letters separately, because we can chunk the letters into meaningful acronyms. However, information in short-term memory is fragile and subject to decay. If we don't actively rehearse or use the information, it fades away within seconds. Rehearsal, the process of repeating information mentally or out loud, helps maintain information in short-term memory. Long-term memory is the vast and enduring repository of our knowledge, experiences, and skills. It's the storehouse of everything we've learned throughout our lives, enabling us to recognize familiar faces, recall past events, and navigate the world around us. Unlike the limited capacity and fleeting nature of short-term memory, long-term memory has an almost limitless capacity and can store information for extended periods, potentially a lifetime. Long-term memory is not a single monolithic system, but rather comprises different subsystems that handle various types of information. Declarative memory, also known as explicit memory, stores facts and events that we can consciously recall and declare. Within declarative memory, episodic memory allows us to travel back in time and re-experience past personal events, like remembering our first day of school or a memorable vacation. Semantic memory, on the other hand, stores general knowledge about the world, such as facts, concepts, and vocabulary. While short-term memory serves as a temporary holding area for information, the true power of memory lies in our ability to transfer information from short-term to long-term storage. This transfer process is crucial for learning, as it allows us to retain information for extended periods and access it later when needed. Several factors influence the successful transfer of information to long-term memory. One critical factor is the level of processing involved during encoding. Deeper, more meaningful encoding, such as elaborative rehearsal, leads to stronger and more durable long-term memories. When we actively connect new information to existing knowledge, create associations, and make it personally relevant, we increase the likelihood of it being transferred to long-term memory. Another important factor is the organization of information. When we organize information into meaningful categories, hierarchies, or schemas, it becomes easier to encode and retrieve. Additionally, repeated retrieval of information strengthens its representation in long-term memory. Quizzing yourself, summarizing information from memory, or trying to recall details from a lecture are all effective ways to enhance retrieval and consolidate memories in long-term storage. By actively engaging with information and practicing retrieval, we solidify its representation in long-term memory. Retrieval is the process of accessing and bringing back stored information from long-term memory into conscious awareness. It's like searching for a specific file on your computer and opening it to view its contents. However, unlike a computer, where files are stored in fixed locations, memories are stored in intricate networks of associations throughout the brain. Retrieval cues play a crucial role in this process. Retrieval cues are stimuli that help trigger the recall of stored information. They can be external, such as a familiar scent or a song that evokes a particular memory, or they can be internal, such as a thought or an emotion that triggers a chain of associations. The more closely a retrieval cue matches the original context in which information was encoded, the more effective it will be in triggering recall. The encoding specificity principle suggests that retrieval is most successful when the conditions at retrieval match those present during encoding. Context-dependent memory refers to the phenomenon where our recall is enhanced when we are in the same physical environment or context where we initially learned the information. Understanding how memory works is not just an academic pursuit. It has profound implications for our everyday lives. By understanding the principles of encoding, storage, and retrieval, we can enhance our ability to learn, remember, and utilize information effectively. Effective encoding strategies, such as elaborative rehearsal, chunking, and organization, can significantly improve our ability to learn and remember new information. By actively engaging with information, connecting it to existing knowledge, and using the mnemonic devices, we can enhance the encoding process and make information more memorable. Recognizing the limitations of short-term memory and employing strategies to overcome them, such as chunking and rehearsal, can improve our ability to hold and manipulate information in mind. Understanding the importance of retrieval practice and utilizing techniques like spaced repetition and active recall can strengthen our long-term memory and enhance our ability to access stored information when needed. The Atkinson-Shiffrin model provides a valuable framework for understanding the fundamental processes involved in human memory, encoding, storage, and retrieval. By exploring each stage of the model, from the fleeting glimpses of sensory memory to the vast storehouse of long-term memory, we gain insights into how information is processed, retained, and accessed. Understanding the characteristics and limitations of each memory system empowers us to adopt effective learning and memory strategies. While the Atkinson-Shiffrin model provides Until next time, keep wondering, keep learning.
Want to rise to your full potential in your studies and revise like a boss? You can trust Study Guide today to have you covered. Subscribe to this channel and see our website linked in the description of this video to see revision articles to maximize your study gains.